Yeah, good morning. Okay, good morning, everyone. This is concept video of programming with objects. Before going to the concept video of PPT, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Boneshwar. You can see my you can see my roll number on my screen. It's 2527. Currently, I'm pursuing my BTech from Institute of Aeronautical Engineering in Computer Science Engineering department. This is my brief introduction. Okay, without further delay, yeah, let's go into the topic. Yeah, in this video, in this concept video, I am going to talk about the topic server side and client side programming. I'm going to discuss briefly about what is server side and client side programming. Okay, let us go into the move into the video. Let us see what are the topics to be going to be covered in this whole PPT. Topics to be covered. First we will go. First I will introduction. I will introduce the topic, like introduction of the topic. Next, what is the server side programming? Next, what after completion of what is server side programming? What can server scripts do? Like what will the server scripts do? And next, advantages of server side programming. Next, what can server scripts do? We discussed before, like what the client scripts do. What is client side programming? Next, client side programming language, like different client side programming languages. Next, what can client servers do? Like these are the topics I am going to discuss. Like by discussing this all the topics, we will come to know the what is client and what are server briefly. As you can see, these are the all types I'm going to discuss. What is server side programming? What can server scripts do? Advantages of server side programming. What can server scripts do? What is client side programming language? Client side programming language. What is client side do? These are the topics. So in the whole PPT I'm going to discuss briefly. Yeah, let me erase the screen before going to the video. Yeah, first let us see what is server side programming. Yeah, server side programming is a method of programming for the web that runs software on the server rather than the browser or installed plugins to create dynamic web pages. Basically, server side programming means you can say which is not visible, which helps the client side servers to run smoothly, dynamically. Server side programming is a method of programming for the web that runs software on the server rather than the it's a software mostly runs on the server rather than the browser or install plugins. Like if you take a system, if you install it, you will install it in the local system, right? Unless like a unless like a client server, the server programs runs on the server rather than the present local systems or web pages or browsers which we are using. Next, language used for this task are normally programming languages which include Perl, PHP, JSP, Ruby, Cloud Fusion, and Python. Like these are the most preferred languages for the. There are many server-side programming languages. Out of those, the famous languages were the Perl, which is PHP, which is ongoing most trending. PHP we use most, like before, not now, before 4 or 5 years. PHP is the most used. Next, JSP, JavaScript programming. Next, Ruby. Even now we're not using Ruby as much as like before, but we use Ruby. And Cloud Fusion and Python. No, Python is one of the most trending for the server side programming. Like all are more getting transferred from PHP to Python. Server side programming. Yeah, what can servers? Let us discuss what can server scripts do. Yeah, like just came to know what is server side scripting, what server side programming. Right? Now what can server scripts do? Let us discuss what can server scripts do. Customize a web page and dynamically change its contents. Yeah, it's not the case that always the content in the page should be static, right? Like there are many applications, even if you come to college websites or many banking websites, the content should be changed dynamically, rapidly, like for every minute, or with the response of the user inputs and user outputs, the content of the web page will be changed. This is called the dynamic change. By using server scripts, we can customize the web page dynamically, change its content. Next, respond to queries from users or from HTML forms. If in HTML, by using the forms, we will collect the data, right? We can respond to the queries from the users or from HTML forms. By using those forms, we can customize the data. Next, access database and send the information back to the browser. We can access access the database and send the information back to the server by accessing. If suppose there is a database if we want to process the data, we can grab the data from the if you can grab the data from the database and send the information to browser information back to the browser. These are the what the server side scripts can do. Next, let us discuss what are the advantages of server side programming. User does not need to download plugins like Java or Flash. Like it's not mandated to download this all kind of things from the server side. This all not mandated to download. Like as it's a server side, user can create one template for the entire website. One template is enough for the entire website. This site can be content management system, which makes editing simpler, generally quicker to load than client side programming. Like it's quicker, the programs will be load quicker than the client side programming. User is able to include external files to save coding. User is able to include external files to save for coding. Scripts are hidden from viewers, so it's more secure. Like you can't show the server side programming as for the security issues. So scripts are not visible for the users, hidden from the view, so it's more secure. Users only see the HTML output. Like after processing the data, user only can see the HTML output from the after processing from the server side programming. Now let us see what are some disadvantages of server side programming. The first is the scripts can be used by attackers to access the server. Like as you know, malware and the hacking. Like mostly this will be on the server side, right? The scripts can be used by attackers to access the server. They do this changing the URL to something that takes advantage of the hole in security. System administrators must keep all the server side programming updated and use an application firewall to prevent this. Yeah, the scripts can be used by attackers to access the server. They do this by changing the URLs to something that takes advantage of a hole in the security. System administrators must keep all server side programming updated and use a application firewall to prevent hits. Yeah, to prevent this advantage from the server, you should use a firewall so that it will prevent the hacking attacks or phishing attacks. So you can even manage this disadvantage. Next will be programming software must be installed on the content management system tools in order to store the dynamic data. To store the dynamic data, you should use some database or programming software must be installed on the content management system to hold the order to store all this dynamic data which you are going to get from the client side server. And this data should be processed by server side processor and should be stored. Now let us see common server side programming languages. Let us see which are the common server, like mostly used or commonly used server side programming languages. ASP.NET, and which mean active server pages deployed by Microsoft to make advanced web pages. Unix servers are Chilisoft. ASP allows user to get any .NET enabled language to perform this site. This is ASP.NET is one of the most commonly used. Next is JSP services, Java server pages. Which include JSP tag mixed in with HTML. Most popular language for the higher level application. Like for higher level, most high end applications, JSP is the most commonly like Java server pages is the mostly used. Next is Cloud Fusion, runs on the top of the JSP or serverlet engine. Like it's the layer built on the JSP or serverlet engine. Can cost around almost $1,300 a server. Users can download a free developer edition, but this is limited to one IP address. Like you can access only using the internet protocol address, only one IP address. These are the common server side programming languages which are mostly used. Next, let us see an example of how server side programming looks. So this here we can see the HTML tag inside the body tag. We wrote a response tag which it fetches the data from the databases and various user input and processes data, and it will respond right to the client server screen so that users can see the output. Yeah, you can see after response was written response dot write, you can see the output on my screen. Yes, hello world. This is a sample example of how server side server side programming going to be work. Now let us see some more server side programming languages. Perl, a practical extension and repeating language, first released in 1987, is a powerful language with advanced features available for free from various programming directories, supported by supported by operating systems. Like it's almost supported by every Unix, Mac OS 7 and 8 and everything. Next, PHP or PHP hypertext process is one of the open source language considered by standard choice of server side programming in Unix or Linux platforms. Like we used to this mostly in Unix or Linux what we call OS systems. Next is Python, created in 1989, is the most supported by most web hosting companies. Although easy to learn, there is no standard web application framework for it. Yeah, even though there is no standard framework web application for this, due to the easy to learn feature to use, we are changing from various languages to Python server side programming. Yeah. Now let us see what is client side programming language. Client side scripts are placed within HTML document in the user's web browser rather than the web server to allow greater interactivity in the document. For example, client side programming could check the users from the errors before submitting it. You can see client side scripts are placed within HTML document in the user's web browser rather than the web servers to allow the greater interactivity in the document. For example, client side programming could check the users from 4 errors submitting. Enables web pages to change content according to users input and other variables, including the time of the day. It can also be stored in a separate file that is referred to the document that used it. Not Let us see how does it work. Usually JavaScript code starts with the tag script language and ends with the tag. Files are first sent to the user's computer by a web server, which executes the scripts and display the document. Next, the client side script may also include browser directions based on certain user functions such as clicking buttons. Like client side even maybe also include browser directions based on client certain user functions such as clicking buttons. Next is frequently you can see the source code by viewing the file that contains the script. You can even source code by viewing the file that contains the script. Next, let us see examples of client-side programming. Suppose a person completes a form but omits information. When they click the submit button on alert box appears telling them about the mistake. This is JavaScript and is an example of client-side programming because all activities takes place inside the browser. Like if you forgot to type password correctly, or if you didn't while creating a new password, if you type the wrong, if all the conditions are not satisfied, then you're going to see the pop-up message, right? This is the due to the help of the client-side programming, which helps in show the which will be run on the browser, which helps for the web pages. This is client-side programming example. Next, let us see advantages of client-side programming. Allows for more interactivity. Can perform actions quickly without going into server. You can perform the actions quickly. May be easier to use for those whose browser don't support scripts. This is easier to use for those who support the scripts. Next, are available from many free resources such as hotscripts.com and javascript.com. Like these are mostly available for free and hotscripts.com and javascripts.com. Next, let us discuss the disadvantage of client-side programming. If the user's browser is out of date, the website will not display properly. Like if you using a old version of browsers, even if you use old versions of the language, the output won't be proper displayed. More quality assurance testing is required because different browsers support scripts differently. Like more quality assurance testing is required. Like you should test manually or automatic testing morely, so that required because different browsers, there are various browsers existing in the planet Earth. So we should test manually many times
as to increase the precision or accuracy. Next, let us see, some browsers will disable the active content not secure because anyone can look at the code in the page source. If you inspect the element, you can anybody can check the course and they can copy. It's not as secure as to as secure in the sense anybody can copy the code. Next, some browsers will disable the active content and tell the user that they may be harmful. Yeah, some browsers will disable the like this, stop the content and show harmful content. This is one of the disadvantage. Next, let us see server-side programming language. JavaScript. JavaScript, not to be confused with Java. JavaScript client-side programming is implemented as part of web browser to enhance the dynamic websites. Next, VB scripts is a programming language that can be manipulate the document. Manipulate the document, objects, and browser. So, how to know which is use? Know your audience. Be sure to know that the scripts work best with the browsers your audience will use. JavaScript is most compatible with Microsoft Internet Explorer and Netscape, and .we usually just use Internet Explorer. Next, test scripts on the browsers. For PC and Mac users, the browsers on the Macs don't support scripts as well as the PC versions do. Next, script should be tested on at least the previous two versions of the your audience browsers, like at least before two versions you should test it. As people are slow to update their browser so that latest scripts may not work. This is the whole content of the PPT. Let us briefly discuss what we said still now. As we discussed all these things, from starting what is server side programming, we discuss briefly. Next, what can a server scripts do? Next, advantages of the server side programming. Next, disadvantages of the server side programming. Next, common server side programming we discussed briefly. Next, server side programming, like I showed an example what is server side programming example. Next, more server side programming language. Next, we discuss what is client side programming language, like how does it works. Next, example of client side programming, advantages of client side programming. Next, disadvantages of client side scripts and client side programming language, and how to know which to like what to use, and this are we discussed. These are the whole PPT still now. Thank you.